Holly do, Holly do, Holly do.
Welcome back to the Holly Dudes Podcast. So, it's Holly Dude cast this week. Tim is out sick. He couldn't make it. So, it's just me. But I love you guys, and I am here for my fans, and we are going to talk about some box office and a couple of movies and all that sort of good stuff. And I'm going to, drink a buzzball or two, and we'll kill an hour on a Sunday afternoon. This is episode 14. So let's get into some box office. Okay, so week 23. Lilo and Stitch held on to the top spot, added another $14.5 million to bring their, 3-week total up to just under 351 domestic as of the end of Thursday. None of this is surprising. I called from the beginning that this thing was going to make a buttload of money. And would you look at that, it did. What is kind of also, I guess, unsurprising, John Wick Ballerina came in second place with 32 million domestic. This is not really all that surprising either. Not necessarily that it came in second the weekend that it premiered, but that it only grossed 32 million domestic. This, unfortunately, it cost far too much money. They spent nearly $1 billion. Right? I'm getting ahead of myself. They spent, quite a bit of money to where, they're nearing that we need $1 billion mark to make any kind of significant profit on this thing. Unfortunately, I don't think enough people care about a spin-off starring not John Wick that features John Wick for maybe a whole 10-15 minutes of its runtime. I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on this sort of thing. And that's why I really wish we would have been able to do the live stream, so maybe I could get a bit more reactions from our listeners here in the moment. But I don't really think that this movie stood much of a chance from the start. You're going up against Lilo and Stitch, which is an absolute box office monster. And you also have a Mission Impossible movie out there. So your adult audience is going to be pretty torn as far as what they feel like spending their money on that weekend. It's sad to see the John Wick franchise lose a whole bunch of money here, but they are going to. That's just the way the cookie crumbles here. Our third place was that Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, which in my opinion is the better of the two movies, although it's still kind of meh. It grossed another just under $22 million to bring its domestic total over 3 weeks to $156 million. It's not terrible, but again, needs $1 billion to make any kind of significant monies, and that's probably not going to happen. Karate Kid Legends came in fourth, $12.4 million, bringing its domestic total over 2 weeks to just under $40 million. This is another movie that didn't really stand much of a chance just because they didn't really advertise it to people. And when I told folks that I know, and again, I live in semi-rural America, that a new Karate Kid movie was coming out, everyone went, huh? And these are folks who are much more familiar with the material than I am. Like I've said in my reviews, that this was my first experience with a Karate Kid property. I've never really been interested necessarily in those movies. And this one didn't do anything to pique my interest in a Karate Kid movie. Our fifth place is occupied by Final Destination Bloodlines, adding just under $10 million to a 4-week total of $126.7 million. That's pretty good. Glad to see this franchise making money as well. I have not ever really been a fan of Final Destination. It's not for me, but people do seem to like these movies, and it's not like there's something with an awful message, right? Y'all know I'm big on the messaging. That's probably the biggest thing for me in a movie. So glad to see Final Destination's making money. It will keep making money, I'm sure. I'm sure this franchise will continue because they can make these things at a low enough budget to retain some kind of profit margin at the box office. Number 6, Phoenician Scheme in its second week added just under $9 million, bring its domestic total to 9.7. Yeah, well, that movie was kind of mid, So Wes Anderson flicks don't really make all that much money to begin with. Didn't expect this thing to do much of anything. Bring Her Back came in number 7, 5.6 million. Dan to Dan, Evil Eye, 4.3. I actually did look up a trailer for this thing. I am kind of a bit of an anime fan, to a point anyway. I do have some graphic novels and such behind me. I am a huge Solo Leveling fan. I was way into it before it became an anime. There's my stupid camera. We're going to zoom back out there. Thank you, sir. Aye. So I use one of these OBS bots for a lot of my filming. When we do the podcast, we film on a Sony camera, but that's Tim's camera. I use this OBS bot here because it works for most things I do, but it's kind of hard doing the podcast where I talk with my hands quite a bit. So if this thing will probably zoom in from time to time, but most of you probably listen to me in the background. And if you want to stare at me, well, you go right ahead, right on. But number 9, Sinners, 4.2. Thunderbolts, 3.5. Sinners is a monster. $274 million. It's available on streaming now. Y'all should check that out if you didn't go see it in theaters. It's a really good time, man. It's probably the best crowd pleaser, I guess, of the year so far, at least for the adult audience. Definitely recommend that out. Ryan Coogler really knocked it out of the park with that one. I think this is probably his most approachable movie for all audiences. With the exception of like the Black Panther, right? I'm talking about more of his adult works here. Just because this thing doesn't have quite the same level of necessarily like racial messaging the other ones do. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, that does tend to turn off some audiences. So this one, it does have some of that, is a much more user-friendly property. I'm sure it will do great numbers on streaming as well because, yeah, like I said, this thing is a good crowd pleaser. It's something good if you wanted to watch something, be entertained, great. If you want to put something on in the background, tune in the good parts, that's fine too. Number 10, Thunderbolts, 3.5 million, 187 total, right? This is going to lose some money. It's going to lose some money, which is unfortunate because this is the best thing that Marvel has put out in quite some time. Thunderbolts is probably the best movie of this phase, unless you are a real big fan of the Guardians property. A lot of people like Guardians 3, and while I did enjoy Guardians 3, I'm just not a big fan of the property. And a lot of that owes to Chris Pratt. I just mostly find him just honestly the least of the popular Chris's. He doesn't have a hell or high water like a Chris Pine to back him up on that lower end. He's certainly not Hemsworth or Evans. So, neither here nor there because he's not in the Thunderbolts. But the Thunderbolts, in my opinion, is it's a fun time, right? And it harkens back to a different age of Marvel where we were all having fun. And it wasn't just the specific audience created for that specific movie, right? That may possibly enjoy it. And that's unfortunately a lot of what we got. I feel like Phase 5 has sunk quite a bit into almost making these sort of identity movies that really lean into more of like an identity politics sort of thing. And I don't mean to get on some kind of soapbox here about it, right? But the thing is, in the cruel world of American capitalism, that does limit your audience to a point. And we can see that reflected in the box office numbers for most of these Marvel properties of late. So it's unfortunate that a general audience crowd pleaser like the Thunderbolts couldn't pick up the weight a little bit. But, we try again next time with Fantastic Four. Some of you may have seen some of the early reviews coming for Fantastic Four, which aren't great. Most of these reviews come to that it's pretty cliche, it's boring, it's predictable, as well as a third act that focuses heavily on some girl boss heroes. And I don't want to sound like the drinker or any of these guys, because unfortunately, while I respect what they've done in the industry as far as making a different lane in this content, it's far too negative. I like to bitch, right? But I more lighthearted. I'm having a good whinge about it. But I really hope that Marvel can understand that maybe their audience doesn't want the Mary Sue, Girl Boss Hero style stuff that they've been doing. There's a way to write a female character that is powerful and that does inspire the audience, right? And that does create new fans for your property. And that's through character growth, right? Just like a male character. This is why I have a big problem with Superman, because unlike a Goku, the man doesn't like have to die to improve or get stronger. He doesn't really learn from getting beaten. He mostly just is what he is, right? And I don't find that a compelling character. Well, a lot of people have kind of a symbolic attachment to a Superman as some sort of hero, right? A lot of these characters that they're introducing and using female leads and still doing this Mary Sue style hero, they don't necessarily have the nostalgia or the IP backing, right, of such of a Superman, right? Superman's probably one of the biggest heroes of all time. So it just never was really going to work out for all of these characters, right? Yeah, honestly, not very good. Kind of tastes like cleaning solvent. But yeah, I hope that Marvel can right the ship, but I highly doubt that that is the direction they are heading in. I did want to mention The Life of Chuck got a semi-wide release last week, and it made just under $300,000. Wasn't very impressive. We'll see this week. I know that even by me, obviously, there really wasn't many showings. And even by Tim, Tim had trouble getting a chance to see this. I know that he did eventually get to see it in a private screening, but yeah, it was quite an issue of trying to find a theater showing this, right? And he lives in a fairly metropolitan area. It's a beautiful film, and I can't stress enough that I really want people to see it. As much as I would love to really dig into it here, I don't want to spend too much time on Life of Chuck. I might get to it a little bit later in this episode, but I do want to spend some time once we do get a Tim back, talking to him about it and getting his thoughts. Let's dig into the predictions for this weekend a little bit, right? So today is Sunday, June 15th. They are predicting that How to Train Your Dragon will take the weekend. Should be, or at least taking Sunday, right? We'll have a weekend of $83.7 million. I am kind of reading this live along with this podcast. Again, there's been quite a ring around of trying to get this episode out here today. The How to Train Your Dragon, $83.7 million on the weekend. I'm not necessarily surprised, only that the number is that low. I know my showing was fairly busy. I know a lot of people are attached to this property. Now, me personally, if you've seen my Just the Tip, which was the longest, it was practically a whole shaft. It was certainly more than the tip, because I was not very pleased with this movie necessarily, and we'll get into that here in a little bit when I do my review of it. Lilo and Stitch is estimated to come in second. They've got Mission Impossible third. From the World of John Wick Ballerina, and to my somewhat surprised, somewhat not. I guess I don't know where how surprised I am. I'm certainly glad that I'm going to make some money off of it. But Materialists, they're saying, will only come in number 5. This is all Sunday's numbers I'm necessarily reading off of, because it's kind of tricky to get the whole weekend estimate here from Box Office Mojo at this point. But it does look like they are predicting Materialists to make just over $12 million this weekend. Now, if you remember last episode, Tim and I bet, I believe it was either $5 or $10. I'll have to watch the episode again to remind myself I bet that this movie would make $25 million or less. He bet that this movie would make $35 million or more, and I suckered him into that high of a number, knowing that this thing probably would fall somewhere in the low teens. But, I had to make some money somehow. Poor Timmy, poor Timmy. But I also doubled that bet as well with a coworker who was also very optimistic that this thing would make money. Unfortunately, what they fail to understand and what I've come to realize is statistics. Women, unfortunately, do not come out to the movies quite as often as one might hope or think, right? I know leading into this, a lot of the women I talked to were very excited for this movie. And the men I talked to had no idea what I was talking about, right? But this really is certainly kind of a one-sided audience appeal. I enjoy it because I love Chris Evans to death, right? Contrary to probably believing, I am still married and I'm not, running away with Chris Evans anytime soon. If you saw the just the tip of the short, but but I do love me some Chris Evans, right? And I'm not surprised that this thing's only going to make $12 million this weekend. I thought for sure that this is right about where this thing would fall, because unfortunately girls don't want to go out to the movies to see it. That's a 2-hour commitment they would have to make when they could be being more productive. So I don't think that was necessarily going to happen. Plus you'd have to maybe convince somebody to maybe want to go, and that's a whole issue in and of itself, right? But yeah, Materialists coming in number 5, not going to make a whole bunch of money, maybe going to make $12 million. I'm going to make $20 and I'm super stoked. so if anybody would ever like to bet box office with me again, please reach out. I would be more than happy anytime to bet some numbers on this. I'm pretty good at predicting where these things will fall. Oh, God, that is awful. All right. So that's pretty much all I care about, other than, Life of Chuck gets a little bit wider release and makes $2 million this weekend. It sucks. It sucks. I really wish this thing would make more money because it is an incredible picture. This is. Really is. I don't quite know how to say it because it hit me in such a way, right, that just really made me want to change the way I was doing a lot of things. And we'll get into that, But that's the box office for this week. If you have any thoughts on this box office, feel free to let me know in the comments. I, though, am very, very ready to get into some movies from this week. So how about we get started? All right. So let's get the worst of the two, in my opinion, out of the way anyway. But maybe the general crowd pleaser that made a bunch of money. How to Train Your Dragon, the live action. So for those of you who saw my Just the Tip, this isn't really a movie for me. As much as I love dragons, I absolutely love dragons, dude. Actually, Reign of Fire is one of my favorite movies of all time. If you have not seen Reign of Fire, it stars Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale, and it is just, man, it's probably the best dragon movie, honestly. But if you haven't seen that, check that out. And if you do want to see a take on that sometime, hey, just let me know. I would love to watch that movie and share my thoughts about it. But anyway, How to Train Your Dragon. This is a remake of a 15-year-old animated movie. So who was asking for this? Whatever. I don't know. Somebody was listening to their kids who just saw this or something for the first time. I don't know. But anyway, they made this movie for some reason. And it's fine. It is nearly a dead-on remake of the original movie. There's a couple of things tweaked here and there, and of course they add about 25 minutes, but it's essentially the same movie, which is the problem. So Lilo and Stitch, right? So they kind of changed the moral lesson at the end of this movie, and a lot of people were mad about it because they went in the worst direction, at least in my opinion and a lot of people's opinion. But this is a movie where, God damn, they could have used to go in a different moral direction. And here's why, right? So I understand the face value lessons of this movie are, to accept people as they are, right? And, maybe we're different, but we all can work together and yada, yada, yada. But on further inspection of this movie, the more I think about it, it's like, man, this is a story about exploitation. I mean, it's essentially what they do with these dragons. These dragons can do things that they cannot, and so let's find a way to exploit them, and we'll give them some fish here and there. Like what? And essentially like, hi, I've befriended you, domesticated you, I fed you, so now let's go topple your entire civilization and kill what is essentially like your god, your ruler, your king. I don't know, man. It just doesn't ring well with me. I know they're trying to play it like, that giant dragon is somehow awful for the other dragons, but it seems like, their society was doing pretty all right for a hot minute, and all of a sudden we decide, yeah, let's do that. I come back to this universe in a couple hundred years. Those fucking dragons are probably extinct. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. But I don't like it. I think that it's not a good lesson to teach people, especially if we're really are trying to move away from these imperialist sort of tendencies that we've had over the course of human history. This like free rights for everyone and democracy thing is a very new norm, right? I don't mean to like make light, right? But in the grand scheme of things, I try to view things on more of a universal scale. It's an incredibly new idea. But this thing like tells you, no, you should like enslave the populace, domesticate them, whatever, and use them for your own advances, and that's not great. It's not great. Not a huge fan of that idea. It's not something, I'm not a father and I don't plan to be, but if I was, it's probably not what I would take my kid to see. Probably try to do a better job. But whatever. And dude, okay, so this kid who plays this Mason Thames, who plays the Hiccup, he's an odd duck. The odd duck. I'd be very curious to hear anybody's thoughts in the comments, but or just a lot of moments. I'm looking at one right now where I'm looking at the moment where he's like touching the nose of the thing, just the look on his face, like he's just. Looks like if that dragon was real, he would like, be the creepy kid in the neighborhood who maybe like clips their wings off or something, like he's just doesn't look like a character I would, be around. And maybe there's probably a fine reason why he's ostracized from his community. He definitely gives off that Jeffrey Dahmer-esque vibe. Not a huge fan of that kid. Hopefully, as much as you want people to succeed, but like I don't want to see him in more roles like this anyway. Make him a serial killer in something; he'd probably be real good at it. This was just not for me, And a lot of people like Gerard Butler in this, and even I thought that like, well, yes, he is essentially like the only guy who could totally play stoic as he is in the animated feature. It's just not. I don't know. Maybe there just wasn't enough to work with here. The direction was bad or something. But there's just a lot of that where this feels awkward or odd. I don't know. It's just not. I don't know. I don't know about How to Train Your Dragon, and I know sitting here saying I don't know is not what the audience is excited about hearing. But I really wish. This is one of those movies where I'd pay to have a buddy to talk to about it because it's just not all that great. The dragons look incredible. The landscapes look great. It's shot very cool. I did see this in 3D, and the 3D looked fantastic. But it's just not a great movie, and some of the costumes are bad, and I don't know. I don't really have a whole ton to say on this thing other than that I didn't like it, and I think a lot of people will like it, and I'm not mad at them for that at all. I don't think that like people are going out and seeing the same message that I see in this movie either, because people don't like think that far into movies, and that's fine. I totally wish I couldn't, totally wish I didn't. I wish I could go to a kid's movie and not treat it like an Anderson film or something, but unfortunately, it's just how I do. It happens when you see all of these movies all the time. How to Train Your Dragon live action. Like I said in the video, man, if you're a huge fan of this movie, you should go out and see this movie because support your box office, support your local theater. But maybe don't bring. I don't know, man. Like I don't recommend bringing kids to this thing. Show them a better story. There's movies with like much better lessons out there. Take them to the Phoenician Scheme. it's got a better moral lesson at the end of it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not there. It's not there. Not as a kid's movie anyway. But I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you want to let me know what you think about How to Train Your Dragons, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. But I think I have said, honestly, as much as I feel like saying about this movie that's, mid, doesn't have a good message. Like, yeah, meh. It's kind of meh. It's kind of meh. It's good. It's good. It does a big meh. Yeah. It's not very good. Let me, you know what? Let's switch into the next movie. Let's talk about The Materialists. Off to a movie that I'm actually excited to talk about this week, Materialists. All right, so this one's written and directed by Celine Song. You might know her from past lives. And if you've been watching the channel, you would know that I was very not happy about this movie prior to seeing it. For those of you who don't know, I'm huge on messaging of a movie, right? And for what we were given to work with off of this movie, this seemed to mostly be a movie about, like unrequited hypergamy, essentially, right? Like we're going to have what is essentially kind of a stand-in for the average woman who, average whatever business professional. She's working as a matchmaker in New York. Okay, yeah, and she is given a choice between her ex-boyfriend who's kind of broke, who's Chris Evans, who okay, and then Pedro Pascal, who's incredibly rich and handsome and yada 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 yada, right? And saying it as far as advertising goes, right? Because what you do get is a much better film than that. This stars Dakota Johnson as our stand-in for the average woman. And here's the thing for the audience, right? I'm sure some people might get mad at this, but be curious to think, right? Like, what do my other male audience members think? Because when I look at Dakota Johnson, I see an incredibly average, beautiful woman. It's not to say she isn't beautiful, but you can find a beautiful woman at the supermarket or the gas station any day of the week, right? So I see an incredibly average, beautiful woman, and that's not, necessarily a big deal. Looks aren't everything. But then I've seen the movies that she's in, and she can't act her way out of a paper bag. She acts maybe as well or better than I do, but only slightly. So, not very impressed with what I've seen from Miss Johnson so far. Those of you who remember Madam Web, but yeah, that's just one of the string of she's not very good. But she's a big Nepo baby, and I'm sure she'll keep finding her way into lead roles with actors who are far outside the caliber of talent that she has. She's, once again, incredibly mid in this thing, capable of about 2 facial expressions. It's Dakota Johnson. What do you expect, right? But what I want to know is for my male audience members watching this, let me know in the comments. Do you think she's also like the most average woman in Hollywood, or am I wrong here? Because I don't know, man. I don't see it. I don't get it. Nice body, sure, whatever. But again, go to an LA Fitness anywhere in America. I don't really get it. Yeah, she's whatever. Just incredibly mid. But and we get Pedro Pascal. Dude, this guy is in literally every movie or TV show. How much more are we gonna get? He's fine in this. And as I said in Just the Tip, he actually brings like a sense of warmth to this movie that this fucking cold, vapid, shitty New York is completely missing in this movie. But still, it's another thing that I'm watching Pedro Pascal be Pedro Pascal in, So he's not like breaking any new boundaries there, but he does a fine job. He does play, both this confident, powerful man, and does have some moments of deep, like, humility and doubt, and that was pretty cool to see. But the standout here is Chris Evans, right? Like, Chris Evans, when given something to do, is an incredible actor. He just like has to have something to do. I've seen The Gray Man several times because I actually really enjoy Mark Greevey as a novelist, and I have a copy of The Gray Man as well. I've read it a couple of times, and You know, I like him as like this quirky villain. He's no Henry Cavill, right? Like can't go like from good guy action hero to bad guy and make it work. And that didn't really work for me. Knives Out, he's fun in, you know, but he's just kind of fun, you know. And of course, he's the greatest Captain America we'll ever have in the history of the world. He is my Captain America. He's America's ass. And yeah, I there will never be another. They can trot out Sam Wilson as long as they want until the fucking sun explodes, but it's never going to happen. If you haven't noticed, they switched to the water because that buzzball was terrible, terrible. But yeah, Chris Evans. Chris Evans, man, he is the standout here. Not only is he like the most lived-in character here, you know, he's essentially like your realistic audience stand-in. He's also the only person who's got like an actual real life moral compass in this movie. So good on you, mate. Good on you. Love me some Chris Evans. So I want to. I'm going to get into this bad boy a little bit. So non-spoiler review of this thing. It's honestly not too terrible. As far as you know, the hypergamy aspect and what you're expecting. Like the first 45 minutes, I really was squirming in my seat because these people are intolerably awful. I mean, you talk about a just an insufferable bunch of rich pricks who, like, no, I demand that your BMI is under 20. I demand that even though I'm 50 and my hairline is receding, that this woman that I date, you know, be no older than 27 years old, right? Like, just disgusting people, you know? They're just disgusting. You know, I don't know, man. I mean, I understand that, like, you obviously, we're all attracted to something, you know? But at a certain point, right, like, thankfully the second half of this movie saves us and gives us the true lesson, right? That love is not just about all checking boxes on a fucking spreadsheet, man. Like, what's so aggravating about the first half is it is unapologetically materialist. It is very much centered around this idea that, you know, these uber wealthy people, like, no, they you know, they want this and they can pay for this and so they should get this, and it's not. Bad people, man. I hope it doesn't work out for any of them. You know. You know, so there's that. But then about halfway through this movie, something happens that I'm going to get into in the spoiler section, but I'll save that for spoilers. That changes the path of this movie and sets our main character out on kind of more of like an emotional journey of self, right? And thank God, because man, this was rough. Like, I'm not one to walk out of a movie that I've paid for unless like it's gross, you know, because I don't really do like the torture porn, body horror sort of stuffs, you know. Like if I bought a surprise screening and it turned out to be like, you know, the latest rendition of Hostel, I'm probably not going, you know. I'm probably leaving halfway through, but and saving that one for Tim. But you know, I'm not one to leave just because I don't like a thing. And honestly, about 40 minutes into this thing, I was thinking about it because this was not good. It was just raising my blood pressure. Oh, big boy, right? Doesn't really take care of himself all that great. So, you know, I don't want to have a heart attack in the front row of the AMC, you know? probably wouldn't be a good look for the channel. You know, I got to be here on Sunday to make this stupid video. But thankfully, this thing takes a turn. And by the end of the movie, I mean, I didn't cry, you know, because it ain't that kind of movie for me. But it was a really nice ending. I mean, it made me happy. You know, I felt very, very, very joyful getting to the end of this movie, and not just because we were almost at the end of a 2-hour runtime. That's right. That's right. It's 2 hours. It's 2 hours. Is a long boy. It's a long boy. You know, for a rom com, right? But you know, gets saved in the second act. So. One thing I want to touch on is if you are reading reviews for this thing, I've seen a lot of reviews coming out that say this does not have necessarily like a definitive ending and then it just kind of ends. Those people are full of shit. It says about the most definitive ending I could possibly imagine for a movie. Like, I don't know what else you wanted out of the rom-com, you know. But it does have a very definitive ending, and yes, she does make a choice between these two men. So, you know, and that choice is spoiler that choice is not just to be by herself. So that's the only spoiler in the non-spoiler section. But she does make a choice. So if you were looking at this and you're saying like, oh, she didn't make a choice, why am I going to see this movie? Well, then you should see the movie because she actually does. She really does. And God damn it, she makes the right choice. She makes the choice for America. And that brings me into the spoiler section. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, I would recommend skipping probably 10 minutes ahead. And if I'm like definitely not talking about it, well, rewind a few seconds. But I'm probably going to spend, the next 10-ish minutes or so in spoilers. One of these days, I'm going to figure out how to put the little, whatever they call them, like bookmarks in this podcast so that, you could pick exactly where you want to go, especially if you were looking on YouTube. But, one step at a time. So this is the spoiler section starting now. So, spoilers for Materialists. Okay, so, like I said, beginning of this movie, Dakota Johnson, matchmaker in New York City. Rich, horrible, wealthy clients. Ex-boyfriend Chris Evans, smoking hot, broke as a joke. New boyfriend, Pedro Pascal, rich as fuck, pretty hot. Okay. It's set the scene for the first 45 minutes of this movie. She's happy being a matchmaker for these fucking horrible people. Okay, so she has this client, Sophie, played by Zoe Winters, who is like her almost not necessarily like a problem client, but like she can't find this lady a match, right? Like she's a little bit older than what like her male clients are looking for, and she doesn't really have a man that is interested in this kind of woman, Well, she finds this guy who's like an obvious piece of shit. Like they do like a little montage of her trying to find a date for Sophie. She finds this dude who's just like, I just want a body. Like just looking for like a warm body, Like he's obviously a piece of shit. Like I just want her to be hot. I don't really care, And she just like scribbles in her notebook like, "Yeah, you perfect," So, she's gonna. She ends up setting Sophie up on a date with this little piece of shit, and spoiler alert. Man, it doesn't go right. He assaults this woman, which this movie doesn't really handle very well. Like it's very much brushed aside. That he like assaults this woman. Like they kind of, they do circle back to it, but like everybody else in this movie like brushes this shit aside. Like, and a lot of people are offended by that. And for me, it was more like highlighting that like the world that Dakota's operating in is fucking horrible, and that all these people deserve whatever's coming to them. They are bad people, including all the squawking idiots that she works with, right? Like, dude, they get somebody married in this movie, and it's like, oh my god, girl, and they gotta go jump around and like do all this stupid celebrating and crap. It's just a bunch of squawking idiots. Like every man in the audience is groaning at that point. But whatever. So anyway, it doesn't work out, right? She's bad things happen, And so she's like gonna sue the company and all this, like a whole thing, And her boss is just gonna like brush it off, like it happens all the time, And Dakota Johnson's obviously tore up about it because she's got kind of a personal connection to Zoe Winters' character, Sophie, and so that happens. But thank God that there was a turning point in this movie, and the camera's being stupid. Camera's being stupid, but thank God there's a turning point in this movie because we get to move the plot forward, right? So at this point, she's kind of like, I'm only getting married to a rich man. That's all I'm only getting married for what money, Okay. So she she's like with Pedro Pascal, and she's kind of like telling him this all the time, like, yeah, you deserve better than me. I'm kind of like a scumbag. I'm not really a good person. I'm old, blah, 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 blah. He's, just committed to like, he wants this woman, but he views marriage just more of like a business partnership, right? Whereas Chris Evans is like, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm totally broke, and I know that I can't give you the money that you want. So like, that I love you, and I just, I want to grow old and die with you, right? And, so, that's kind of the choice she's at, right? And, she goes through this kind of moral crisis, right? And eventually she decides, like, she ain't going to be with Pedro Pascal. And she finds, like, these scars because he got, like, leg extensions. So he grew, like, 6 inches, And she's like, yeah, I don't love you. And she finds out about that, which is, like, a really shitty way to break up with the guy. You know, like that's the thing that you point to as like, yeah, I don't want to be with you. Like you got leg extensions, and when I found out that proved that I don't love you. Wow, dude. Like it's at no point is she a redeemable character. Like I don't find anything she does in this movie necessarily to be like a redeemable thing. But she, you know, she I guess I don't know. I don't think you're supposed to like her. You know, but I hope that wasn't the goal for us to like her. But anyway, she decides she's gonna break up with Pedro Pascal, and she like goes to see Chris Evans and da 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 da, and they do lots of cool stuff. And spoiler alert, she chooses Chris. Thank God. This is like this movie redeems itself finally. And the last scene of this movie is them getting married during the credits. They get like courthouse married, right? Like it broke as a joke, but they're gonna be happy, right? And as somebody who got married in his kitchen, hell yeah, man, hell yeah, I get it, dude. And because that's what it is, man. This turns into an entertaining movie. I think that you should check it out, especially if you had interests in this movie and maybe the initial reviews are turning you off. I think this is a great movie, and I think this is a lot of fun. Especially for maybe the female audience will enjoy this a lot more. Guys, as much as I'm saying that, like, hey, maybe this is entertaining, like I cast more maybe a universal view. I don't think this is necessarily the movie for like a single man audience to go out and see. You'd probably just be like real frustrated for 45 minutes, But this was a lot of fun. Chris Evans, like I said, is just incredible. There are a couple of moments where if I could cry during a rom com, I might. But I don't know. Just something about it doesn't do it for me. But he gives a nice little monologue at one point that's just, oh man, been there, did that, been that guy, and yeah, dude, that's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. It's I have not seen Past Lives, and I've heard Past Lives is the far superior film. Didn't really sound like my sort of thing. It's another love story sort of thing. But I will say, Materialists. So let's talk about lessons. As I've said, I'm real big on lessons in a movie, right? And I think that this, I wanted to hate this thing. Thank God it finally tells the right lesson in the end, because this is an important lesson, right? And this is lesson time from a overweight white man who's like 30 and made a bunch of horrible decisions in the past, right? But we find that person that you think you could, change their diapers when they're 60, or have to eventually share a hole in the ground with this person, right? You should hang on to them, regardless of how broke you guys get or fight over some silly shit, right? Because we all go through that, right? It's part of being married. It's part of being in a serious relationship, and I've certainly went through that myself, right? I'm married, and it's not always easy. It's not always the the funnest game in the world, right? But you trade it all, right, for those moments, where you get to spend those little intimate moments with the person that you really love and that you do want to spend the rest of your life with, and that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It doesn't really get much more beautiful. People say stuff about having a kid and all that sort of stuff, and I'm an antinatalist, so that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I think that what we get in the final act here definitely saves this movie, and I recommend that you guys go see it. If you got some time, check out Materialists this weekend. If it was my option between How to Train Your Dragon or Materialists, shockingly, if you would have told me 2 months ago that I would be saying go see The Materialist because it has a better moral lesson for you than How to Train Your Dragon, I would have shot myself in the foot. I would have shot myself in the foot for fun. But no, this, dude, it's a fine movie. It's a fine movie with a good lesson. Teach you to love the people that love you back and that would, literally do anything for you. And yeah, I definitely recommend going to see The Materialist. I will spend just a few minutes on the life of Chuck while we're here. So, the life of Chuck. As I said in the last week's podcast, I saw this movie. I saw it as a AMC screen unseen. Just for a recap, and a screen unseen is essentially an early screening of something coming out. They won't tell you anything, but the approximate runtime, they kind of fudge it to keep it a secret just a little bit by a few minutes. And the rating, and I saw this, and I honestly think it changed my life. I don't know if it was for the long term or the short term. And of course, my camera's attempting to ruin a tender moment, But I'll keep talking and trying to manipulate the camera here. This is an incredible movie, right? This is a movie that teaches you that there's more to your life than all this silly little stuff that you may see day to day. It is the little moments that you have where you really get to be yourself and just enjoy the moment. It's recognizing that the people around you exist both within you and outside of you. We don't always think about the world that we build inside of ourselves. And this movie is based off of the line, "I contain multitudes," from a poem. And I can't quite remember off the top of my head, and I'm kind of freeballing here. But the idea we contain multitudes. Essentially, you are all of the memories and experiences and people that you meet throughout your life. All of them hold some kind of place within you as a memory, as an impact they had on your life, as a set of synapses in your brain, right? They're part of your code, right? And what happens to those people or that world when you die? I mean, what happens when you die? I'm sure a lot of us think about that, right? And kind of places in perspective the world you build in your head, and legacy, right? Those people. Does the world exist the way you really view it does, or is it's on its own entirety outside of you? And this movie makes you think about those sort of things, right? Yeah. The first act is kind of an end of the world sort of thing. It might feature about the end of life too. It plays almost like a horror movie, but it's beautiful. It's real beautiful. Matthew Lillard has a monologue in the first few minutes of this movie that brought me to tears. I'm crying within the first 10 minutes of this movie. This is a powerful movie. You get what would your final moments be like if you knew they were coming? And what would you do with them? Who would you want to be with? How would you want to spend them? Something that I'm sure a lot of us think about, right? And this movie contemplates on that quite a bit. It also talks about what you would do if you could know how you were going to die. What does that do to you? What does it do to you to know the people around you are going to die? Or how, right? Would you want to know? Would it make any impact on the way that you would live your day-to-day life? And having the choice to kind of make that decision, whether or not you want to know. And I'm sure at some point in your life, right? A lot of us think about these sort of things. And to have a movie that so candidly allows you to reflect on these very important questions. It might be the most important questions that you're going to ask yourself on a given day. Because at the end of the day, deciding what all that means to you means how you're going to live your life. Are you going to live for each individual moment? Are you going to live for the world in your head or the world around you? Do you want to know that the end is coming, or do you just want to carry on, live each moment as beautifully as you possibly can? And it's those sort of things that this movie gets into, and it's why I said in the last episode that I think if we all really got a chance to see this and sit with it, maybe we'd be better people. Maybe be a better world. I had a similar experience with a movie like this that I felt really spoke to me and changed me when I saw the Grand Budapest Hotel. A little spoiler alert for the Grand Budapest Hotel if you haven't seen it. It's an old movie. It's not old, but Came out over 10 years ago, right? So if you haven't seen it by now, I can't really spoil all that much for you. It's available on streaming. Grand Budapest Hotel. You watch this whimsical, fun story, between these characters. This young, like a bellhop, something like that, right? Like you work at this hotel, he's the entry man, kind of working his way up, right? And then you got the main guy, main hotel. He's the manager, maitre. I can't remember exactly what his main title is, but they kind of go along, in this grand adventure sort of thing, and at the end of that, and it ends in such a somber way where you find out that the main manager essentially, oh man, choking up just a little bit just thinking about it because it gets me every time. But the manager, essentially, this ends right at the beginning of the Holocaust, and while leaving the country on a train, they are stopped, and in order to save the life of the younger character of the bellhop, the like I said, gets me every time. The maitre d', gives his own life so that this so that this younger generation can carry on, right? Live the sort of life that he wanted for this boy, and it's awesome, it's awesome. Gets me every time, But I remember seeing that movie and the kind of impact that kind of sacrifice makes on you, right? It's just same sort of thing as like the Iron Giant, right? The Iron Giant at the end, gives his life for everyone. I'm Superman, just because they were afraid of him, right? But he made the right choice. So this is just just another one of those sort of movies, right? Or really gives you an opportunity to decide what kind of person you want to be, and that's pretty cool, So if you get the chance to see the life of Chuck, as I was saying, it's very hard to find a ticket to this thing necessarily unless you live in like a major city, because it's just not showing everywhere. But if you get a chance, I think you should see this. I think you should see this. I think you should let it sit with you, right? And try to understand how maybe you could do better every day, and yeah, that's something I'm trying to do, and I think that sort of lesson, obviously, in such a volatile time as right now, is probably pretty important. But yeah, so it's pretty much the movies that came out this week. Do a last little segment where I wrap this up with you guys, and we talk about movies coming out next week. We talk about the plans for episode 15, and then we'll get on out of here. How's that sound? All right, guys. So last segment before we wrap this up here. Let's get into a little bit of next week's movies. Looks like next week we are going to have 28 Years Later. This is the long-awaited follow-up in the 28 franchise. 28 days, 28 weeks. Now we have 28 years. Looks pretty good. Looks exciting. I know Tim is super stoked for this thing. Hopefully he gets a chance to see it. Hopefully he feels better soon. But I'll probably be seeing this thing and putting a video out on it and being scared to death. I still remember the scene in the beginning of 28 Weeks with homie ripping his wife's guts out on that operating table. I'm not a fan of this franchise, but we're gonna see it. We're gonna put a video out on it, and hopefully it'll be the best movie ever. We'll find out. We also have Elio. This is another animated kids movie thing coming out. I've seen very minimal advertising as far as trailers for this thing. I've seen a couple of trailers in theaters. I've also seen some promotional items like in stores, Walmart, I think. But I don't think this thing's going to do a goddamn thing, at least not in the United States. Maybe it'll get a better push overseas. Seems to me like maybe something that might do well in South America or might do well maybe in Asia, but I don't know if this is necessarily going to do anything here. Uh, just from talking to folks, they don't seem to know much about this movie coming out, and certainly don't seem crazy interested in seeing it. Judging by what good old Box Office Mojo wants to tell me here, it looks like we've got several things coming out or coming back into theaters next week. Or coming out on streaming. There's like a Queen of My Dreams, Sovereign, Marley Matlin, Brightheart, blah, 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 blah. Some of these look like movies that already came out. I don't know. Maybe they're just moving to streaming. But pretty slow week. It's kind of a dump month here in June, of course. We won't really be getting anything that the Holly dudes are crazy excited about until probably July. I know we are somewhat looking forward to the F1 movie that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks. Looks like I will have an opportunity to see an early screening of that, so hopefully be getting a early review out here to you guys. There's also Mithrigan 2.0 coming out that week. Sure we'll be seeing that and reviewing that as well. I haven't seen the original Mithrigan, so I'm going to have to check that thing out. I don't know if that's how they call this thing. I don't know. That's what I'm calling it, Mithrigan. That's what I've heard a couple of people call it. Looks about right to me. But yeah, not a big couple of weeks. In July we're going to have like Jurassic World with Superman, Fantastic Four. July's much bigger month for movies. June's kind of catching up with just getting out of school and all that. So we will probably try again next month. But there'll be some stuff coming out. There was just the tips for both of actually all three of the movies that I talked about in this episode. How to Train Your Dragon, Materialists, and Life of Chuck. Please go ahead and check all of those out. All three of those are from yours truly, of course. But yeah, if you haven't checked out the Just the Tips, check those out. I'm going to pull some shorts too, probably from a couple of the past podcasts. I know we've been pretty short on getting shorts out, but both of us have no fucking service where we work, and that occupies a lot of the time when we're not actually like filming or watching movies and all that sort of stuff. So we try to get them out as we can. I do think there are definitely some shorts that I want to get posted this week, so I'll try to get some of those out. Please let me know your thoughts on the whole solo cast, right? This was obviously not planned, and this was just me mostly rambling at you for about an hour. And, of course, crying like a little bitch because I had talked about Grand Budapest Hotel. It's a great way to make me cry. But I hope everybody had a good time with me today. I know that, change of formula. But I certainly enjoy always getting on here and talking to you guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Please give the video a like, share to your friends, point them in our direction. If any of you know anything about getting this goddamn YouTube live to work, that'd be cool. I don't know why it wasn't working for me. I kept saying I had network issues, but I do live in the middle of nowhere, so that might be a thing. But, we're going to keep working on that. Maybe we will get a live stream to work in the future. I do also plan on hopefully having a guest within the next couple of weeks here. So, or maybe even a fill-in for Tim if he is still sickly. So, we'll see. Hopefully, I don't have to come at you guys all by my lonesome every week, but I'm more than happy to do it because I love being on here and talking to y'all. So, please like and subscribe, all that good stuff, all the YouTuber crap that I'm constantly, telling you guys are putting in the comments. As always, enjoy the outro, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.